This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by MJ Today Media, publishers of this podcast, our flagship show Marijuana Today, as well as the Weed Wonks and Green Rush podcasts. If you have a legal marijuana product, service, or brand that you need to promote to the best audience in the business, then we're here for you. You can get in touch with me to learn about how to become a sponsor by sending me an email to Shay at mjtodaymedia.com, with Shay spelled S-H-E-A. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, January 28th, 2020, and you're tuned in to episode 874 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We return to the vape health crisis storyline for our top headline today, as yesterday news broke in California that 3/4 of all 10,000 illicit market vaporizers seized by authorities in recent raids tested positive for additives like vegetable glycol and vitamin E acetate, which has been blamed for causing the bulk of the more than 1,000 vape-related health problems reported nationwide over the last year or so. There were also issues found with how much THC was in the illicit market vape carts, as some that were labeled to have up to 80% THC actually had closer to 33%. Given the profit motives involved combined with the lack of testing and accountability in the illicit market, this news should shock no one, but it does nicely put some numbers to the problem, which is something we'll likely see in other states outside of California. Give this one a read. Yesterday in Mexico, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador spoke during a press conference about a new government panel that will be created to study the best way to roll out adult use legalization. In translated remarks, President López Obrador said, quote, "A group is going to be formed to decide what will happen about that with a public health approach. We are about to comply with the recommendations of the Supreme Court," unquote, referring to a court decision last year ordering that marijuana be made legal. That original Supreme Court decision had a deadline of October of last year that was later pushed to April of this year. As Marijuana Moment has it, and as we've reported on a number of times recently, there's legalization legislation being worked on by Mexican lawmakers, but nothing's been passed yet so far. So expect a busy next few months for this important storyline. Another good one to read in full. Closing out today's top stories is a headline out of Arizona, where the Department of Health Services announced yesterday that the state had sold an estimated $580 million worth of legal marijuana in 2019, with just under 222,000 registered patients in the system as of December. Arizona doesn't release actual sales figures, but does issue the overall weight of cannabis sold, with 15,402 pounds of cannabis product going out the door just in December alone, broken down into just under 14,000 pounds of flower, with the remainder made up of edibles and concentrates. This is a good story to read in full if you do business in Arizona, and even if you don't. I would also recommend doing some interweb searching to find the reports section of the Arizona Department of Health Services website, as their monthly releases are detailed and worth the time diving into. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, MJ Today Media, publishers of this podcast, our flagship show, Marijuana Today, as well as the Weed Wonks and Green Rush podcasts. If you're spending any marketing dollars in this industry, then you need to be spending some of that with us here at MJ Today Media. Because when it comes to the business of legal marijuana business podcasting, no one is doing it better than us. We've been making podcasts about legal marijuana for coming up on 6 years now, have been making it our business for the past 3, and have been profitably doing it for the last 2. Our audience has been built up in the old-fashioned way, with no budget, relying entirely on word-of-mouth marketing, which has resulted in a seriously loyal group of some of the best people in the industry as our audience. There's just something special about the medium of podcasting that sets it apart from text and even video. Get in touch with me today to learn how to become a sponsor of the shows we produce. It will be the best marketing decision you will ever make. And we're super flexible in how we work and can operate with budgets ranging from $100 a month to $10,000. Email me at shay@mjtodaymedia.com to get started. That's shay@mjtodaymedia.com with Shay spelled S-H-E-A. All right, time for the Blitz. The U.S. Department of Agriculture announced yesterday the approval of proposed plans by Delaware, Nebraska, and Texas, as well as 3 Native American tribes for growing industrial hemp. Hemp was made legal to grow in the 2018 Farm Bill on the federal level, but to do so legally requires that the plants be grown in a state or by a tribe that's cleared a plan with the USDA. This effectively opens up those spaces on the federal level for hemp cultivation, though local rules and regulations still apply, with some of those still to be worked out. The 4 tribes that were approved, the Colorado River Indian tribes, the Fort Belknap Indian Community, the Iowa tribe of Kansas and Nebraska, and the Yurok tribe, joined 3 other tribes already cleared to cultivate. You can swing over to Marijuana Moment for more on this and to click through to the USDA's site listing all tribes and states with approved plans. Multi-state cannabis operator Cresco Labs just announced a deal with Innovative Industrial Partners, a company we just talked about for their large fundraise that will support their work investing in cannabis-related real estate, with Cresco selling facilities to Innovative Industrial Partners that will then be leased back to Cresco for operations. We've seen more of these so-called sale-leaseback deals in recent months as cannabis companies seek to convert real estate holdings to cash at the expense of higher operating costs on the longer term. This latest deal between Cresco and Innovative Industrial Partners was for an industrial space around 50,000 square feet in size for $10.6 million. New Cannabis Ventures has more here if you need it. Penelope Overton at the Portland Press Herald has a good update on my corner of the country here in Maine, as at least 12 proposed marijuana-related bills are on the legislative docket for this year's session. One proposed measure would allow for legal adult use delivery, while another would trim the amount of space required between legal marijuana businesses and schools from 1,000 feet down to 300 feet, which is the same amount required for liquor stores. The delivery bill seems particularly important for consumer access, given that Maine law allows local towns and cities to block the opening of legal cannabis stores. Another good one to read if you do any kind of business up this way. Marijuana Business Daily's chart of the week lands a spot today with a look at the current wholesale price of cannabis versus where prices were last year. The numbers are nicely broken out by category, showing indoor, outdoor for extraction, mid-quality indoor, and low-quality indoor. As with all of Marijuana Business Daily's charts of the week, this one has plenty of good accompanying detail and context. In general, prices are up in Arizona in all categories but premium indoor, which is held fairly steady at around $1,600 per pound. Always worth looking at reliable pricing data. Add this one to your list to read today. We have another Marijuana moment as Vermont's Republican Governor Phil Scott is said to be working with state lawmakers on a plan to set up a taxed and regulated marijuana sales program. Vermont passed adult use legalization via legislation in 2018, but did not do so in a way that allows for sales. Instead, Vermonters of age can grow, possess, use, and share cannabis, but they can't buy or sell it. That's obviously an untenable position to hold for the long term, what with the realities of supply and demand and the fact that there are so many other nearby states starting to allow for sales. There's also the positive incentive for the state to collect marijuana sales tax and business fees, so this is a storyline worth watching. Jumping up to Canada, we have Quebec's provincial cannabis retailer, which holds exclusive domain over all cannabis businesses in Quebec, dialing back its planned expansion to 150 dispensaries province-wide to just 100. There are 33 dispensaries right now in all of Quebec, which has a population of 8.5 million people, meaning there's just one shop for every 257,000 or so residents. If you ever wonder why the rollout of legal marijuana in Canada has been fairly botched, this is a good storyline to look to. Our final story is another headline that plays along the same themes as our previous one, taking us to Toronto, where the city is reporting that it spent more than $274,000 US last year to install large concrete barriers blocking illicit marijuana dispensary storefronts. Blocks that were just as often as not taken down by dispensary operators and rabble-rousing activists. The long-running battle between the city and illicit shop operators was very public and did not land the city very many fans, to say nothing of the just reported overall cost. For the record, most of the blocked-off shops continue to operate today. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, MJ Today Media, and to our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.